Right now, you are doing something close to magic. You are turning silent thoughts into little sounds. Those sounds fly through the air into another head. And that person knows exactly what you meant. We do it so easily we forget how strange it is. You did not invent this trick yourself. It was handed to you, fully built, before you could walk. Now imagine every word you know is suddenly gone. No, hello. No, look out. No, I love you. Not one single word for your entire life. That was the world your ancestors actually lived in. For almost all of human history, there were no words. So how on earth did anyone say anything at all? The answer is older and stranger than you think. And a surprising amount of it is still inside you. Scientists say that go back far enough, your ancestors were apes. They could not speak a single word, but they were very far from silent. Watch a chimp or a bonobo today. They communicate constantly, just not with words. They talk with their hands and their bodies. Scientists have now cataloged over 80 separate ape gestures. A loud scratch that means groom me. A reach with an open hand that means give me that. A branch shaken that means let's mate. And here is the unsettling part. Most of these gestures are shared between different ape species. A chimp and an orangutan use many of the same ones. That suggests the gestures are old, built in, not invented. Our shared ancestor was probably already signing like this, millions of years before a single word existed. You might assume we left all of that behind. We didn't. In 2023, researchers ran a beautifully simple experiment. They showed ordinary people videos of wild ape gestures. Over 5,000 strangers took the test. No training, no animal expertise, nothing. And they guessed the meanings correctly more than half the time. You can watch an ape sign, groom me, and just get it. A signal your family last used millions of years ago. It is still quietly sitting there in your brain. Now watch a human toddler who cannot talk yet. The gestures they use are mostly the same gestures chimps use. Your child speaks fluent ape before they ever speak a word. There is one gesture, though, that chimps almost never make. Pointing at something far away just to share it with you. A human baby starts doing it at about 1 year old. Long before their first word, they point, then look back at your face. That tiny act, look at that, with me, is the seed of language. But the body was not the only tool. There were also sounds, grunts, hoots, barks, and screams. For a long time, scientists thought these sounds were simple. One call, one meaning, locked to a feeling. 2 recent studies blew that idea wide open. In 2025, a team studied wild bonobos for years. They found the bonobos combine their calls. They stack 2 calls together to make a new meaning. A little like joining 2 words into a phrase. That same year, another team studied wild chimpanzees. They recorded over 4,000 calls from 53 animals. The chimps took 12 basic sounds and combined them into 16 different 2-call phrases. The pairing and the order changed the meaning. That looks almost like the very first grammar. Take the vervet monkeys of East Africa. They have a different alarm call for each kind of killer. One bark for a leopard, and everyone scrambles up a tree. A different cry for an eagle, and everyone dives into the bushes. A hiss for a snake, and everyone stands tall to scan the ground. Give the wrong call, take the wrong escape, and you die. Those calls are not just noise. They stand for real things. Bonobos and chimps are our closest living cousins. We shared an ancestor with them around 7 million years ago. So the building blocks of language are ancient. They were rattling around long before we were even human. Still, gestures and grunts are not full speech. To truly talk, you need the right hardware. You need a throat that can shape fine, precise sounds, and an ear that can tell those sounds apart. For a long time, we pictured cavemen as grunting brutes. The bones say otherwise. In 2021, researchers scanned the ear structures of Neanderthals. They rebuilt, in 3D, exactly what those ears could hear. The result was startling. Neanderthal ears were tuned almost exactly like ours. They caught the same fine range of speech sounds, right up into the high frequencies we use for consonants, and that detail matters more than it sounds. Vowels are easy. Plenty of animals make vowels. Consonants, the T's, K's, and S's, are the hard part. Neanderthal ears were built to catch exactly those. You don't evolve an ear for speech you never hear. So our heavy-browed cousins were very likely talking too. Not English, not any word you would recognize. But if you heard them, you would know they were human, and we paid a strange, dangerous price for all of this. In most animals, the voice box sits high in the throat. In humans, over time, it dropped down low. That lower voice box lets us shape a huge range of sounds, but it also means our food and our air share one crowded pipe. It is the reason a human can choke to death on dinner. No other animal kills itself eating quite so easily. We literally gambled with choking for the power to speak. So when did real language finally switch on? This is where it gets maddening, because words do not fossilize. A spoken sentence leaves no trace in the dirt. You cannot dig up a conversation. For decades, that made the question almost unanswerable. Then, in 2025, scientists tried a clever sideways trick. Their reasoning went like this. Every human group on Earth has full, complex language. Every single one, on every continent. So language must be older than the day we split apart. They gathered 15 separate genetic studies, and the data pointed to one moment. The first human groups began separating about 135,000 years ago. So the full power of language had to exist by then. Already loaded into every human who would ever live. And around 100,000 years ago, something else shows up. Beads, carved patterns, lumps of red ochre, symbols, objects made to stand for an idea. You do not make a symbol unless your mind already thinks in them. And that is the very same machinery language runs on. So every separate trail of clues points to the same window. And once we finally had words, what did we mostly use them for? Not grand ideas or deep truths. Gossip. Apes bond by grooming each other's fur for hours. But you cannot hand groom 100 people every day. Talking may have begun as a way to groom a whole crowd at once. A way to say, without ever touching, I am on your side. There is one more haunting possibility. Some scientists think we sang before we ever spoke. That the first language was closer to music. Darwin himself suspected this more than a century ago. He compared our earliest courtship sounds to the singing of birds, rising and falling tones that carried feeling, not facts. A mother humming to settle a frightened baby. A whole group chanting together around a night fire. And think about how you still talk to an infant. You don't explain things to them, you sing-song at them. And it works, long before they know a single word. A newborn cannot understand any words at all, but it already reads your tone perfectly. A soft voice settles it. A sharp one makes it cry. You understood the music of a voice before you understood meaning. Maybe that melody is the oldest voice we have. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. You never actually left that wordless world. You are still living in it, every single day. Watch yourself the next time you are on the phone. You wave your free hand around as you talk, at a person who cannot even see you do it. Your body is still chattering away in the old language. People blind from birth gesture while they speak, too. It comes from somewhere far deeper than sight. We even smuggle gestures back into our writing. We call them emoji, tiny faces and hands. Doing the job our words still cannot quite manage. Now think about how a normal conversation flows. You stop, I start, almost instantly. The gap between our turns is about 1/5 of a second, and it is nearly identical in every language on Earth. Japanese, Danish, English, all within a syllable of each other. Apes take turns in their exchanges, too. So that rhythm is far older than any word you know. You inherited the timing long before you inherited the talking. And when words fail you completely, you drop straight back into the old system. Real anger is not in the words, it is in the tone. Grief is not a sentence, it is a sound. Love, half the time, is just a look held too long. The deepest things you feel still skip language entirely. So picture that first real conversation. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, with no words at all. Just two creatures facing each other, a glance, an open hand, a sound rising and falling, a short pause and then a reply. It would have looked almost exactly like you, talking today, because language was never the foundation. It is a thin new coat of paint over something far older. A system of hands, faces, and sounds built over millions of years. Strip every word away, and that ancient thing is still there, humming quietly under every sentence you have ever spoken. The first humans talked long before they had any words, and in a way you rarely notice, so do you. So the next time you reach for a word and it just won't come, and your hands start moving and your face takes over instead, that is not your language breaking down. That is the oldest language you own, still working perfectly.